Hey there, and welcome to The Hash. I'm Zach Seward. Welcome to Tuesday. Hey, Naomi's back. Hey, Naomi Brockwell. We got Naomi Brockwell over there. We got Will Fox. We got Jen Sanasi. We got the whole squad here today. Naomi is going to take us to her favorite place, Washington, D.C., our nation's capital. Naomi, start us off.
It's my favorite place, and we're going to talk about all the great things the government has done now. So President Joe Biden has just signed into law the $1 trillion bipartisan infrastructure bill. Of course, it contains a very controversial clause. It's a crypto provision that potentially will expand the idea of what a broker is. It will insist on reporting requirements that will be almost impossible to comply with. There are some people who say that parts of it are unconstitutional. So there are a lot of people who are not happy about this. We have seen some steps being taken already to push back against it. So our favorite Senator, Cynthia Lummis, she's now attempting to narrow the scope of the law's crypto broker clause. She introduced a bill on Monday that sought to kind of narrow that. There are also some other steps that other people are taking. We can dive into those as well. But I'm going to throw to the group for your take on this. I mean, it's if this goes through, a lot of people are saying that it's going to make it very difficult for crypto to really flourish in the United States. It's going to push innovation offshore. It's going to make it difficult to comply. What are your thoughts on this? Well, I'll throw to you to start off with.
Yeah, I'll take it from just like a Bitcoin mining perspective, because that's what I got yesterday when this passed. There was a meeting between Representative Emmer's blockchain caucus, and they were talking about what this could mean going forward. And they had a bunch of representatives from a bunch of different Bitcoin mining industry bigwigs kind of talking with government about it. And Dave Perel of Compute North said outright, what this does is kills Bitcoin mining in North America, which is just, it's pretty frustrating to see that right after China also banned it. And we've been talking so much on the show this year about the differences between Chinese foreign policy and Chinese policy when it comes to crypto, and the differences between it and the US policy when it comes to crypto, and how there should be a very, very large gap between those two things. Since, they're a totalitarian regime and the U.S. is a democracy, but we don't see that happening. And this is the forefront of tech. And we see that there's these two policies are slowly converging to where cryptocurrency is being knocked down time and time again. So pretty discomforting to hear those words yesterday. And it's not just Bitcoin mining, of course. Like this language was written so sloppily and so quickly, and there's no changes made to it. And it impacts everyone from running a node all the way to mining, to anyone running a validator, anyone, even a coder. Everyone, someone just building code, building a DeFi protocol, they can be classified under this legislation as a broker, which encompasses so much more paperwork and KYC information. It's really a step backwards for technology in the US. Zach, I'll throw it to you.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right. Just the all-encompassing nature of this language not being precise, it just really goes to show. And I'm just kind of remembering this all came out over the summer, and there was just much effort to try to be more precise in how this language was deployed. But it doesn't seem like that's going to get over the finish line. So I think it is rather disappointing. I believe this is also the thing that the Treasury Department said it wasn't really going to enforce. We'll see what plays out with that. And we'll see when this goes into effect. But yeah, the fact that this is this encompasses so much of the crypto industry, seemingly on accident, I think is going to be particularly, could be particularly harmful to the crypto industry in the U.S. And we'll see what level of enforcement follows. I think I saw Jen's hand, and I also saw Naomi's hand, but I'm going to toss it down to Jen first.
Yeah, so the fact that a separate bill has to be introduced to narrow the scope and language in a bill that already exists and has just been signed by the president is really ludicrous to me. There's been so much pushback from the industry. There's been so many attempts to change this language, and now we need to introduce a separate bill. It just feels like the industry is being forced to jump through so many hoops, and the people who are making the decisions really don't understand. Every time we talk about the bill, I always bring up the provision that requires recipients of anything over $10,000 to record the personal information of the seller and then report that to the government within 15 days. And I think in this article, there were lawyers who said, that's just absolutely impossible. People are not going to be able to comply with that. And I just wonder if these rules and laws are being written in so that regulators can pick and choose when when they are going to enforce them and use it to their benefit. But Naomi, I'll pass it back off to you to wrap up the segment.
That's exactly why they do it. They give themselves a very long leash so they can get away with a lot. And to your point, Zach, about the Treasury did respond and say, we're not going to interpret this too broadly. But it requires a couple of presumptions there. The first is that they define too broadly the same way that we define too broadly. And also that any future Treasury Secretary isn't going to just reinterpret it more broadly. So, it's just the fact that this is what's written into the law is really problematic, regardless of what some anonymous source from the Treasury Secretary has said in terms of their interpretation. So it's really problematic. We'll see what happens in the coming months with pushback, and there is going to be a constitutional challenge mounted by Coin Center. So that will be very interesting to watch play out. Very much rooting for Coin Center, and you can go and support them with all of your might and your money. And I think that would be a good cause. And I'm being pushed along, so I'm going to head to Zach. What have we got next?
Speaking of the Constitution, thanks for saying that.
Great segue.
Let's talk about ConstitutionDAO. Bunch of internet friends getting together to put together a bid on a very rare physical copy of the U.S. Constitution. This story is just really fun and crazy. Started out really small, gathered some momentum, and everybody's trying to get in on this thing now. A DAO could be the owner of a rare copy of the U.S. Constitution. This is a fun story. This speaks to some of the excitement around some of these Web3 collectives where a bunch of people on the internet rally in a Discord, pool funds, pool connections, and potentially own a piece of U.S. history. What will they think of next, those DAOs? This is some crazy stuff. I'm going to toss this straight to Will for his take. I know he's a history buff and also, a bit of an Ethereum nerd. So I'm going to toss it straight to you.
So all my information on this article is based on Twitter. So who knows if it's accurate or not, of course. But I'll say it anyways.
Most accurate place.
Huge. It is. There's some really good information on Twitter. It's also a lot of misleading stuff. I saw that the multi-sig, which is the contract behind the scenes that allows people to interact with the Constitution once they are able to buy it, would be a 9 out of 13 multi-sig, which 13 colonies, right? So there you go. That's some great history for you guys this morning. There's some other interesting little things that are going along with this. I saw an amazing video. Everyone should go watch it. I think it's on the ConstitutionDAO Twitter page. Some guys put together a 2-minute video singing about this. So there's a lot of meme energy behind this DAO booting up, which is just fantastic. It's good to have some enthusiasm and energy as Bitcoin's price is also tanking right now and Ethereum's price is tanking a little bit. And the whole backdrop of the story, I missed all of that, but it's wild to see what happens with 10 people just get organized and excited about an idea. And they're just pooling funds to buy a copy of the US Constitution, which I didn't know there was more than one copy. I thought there was just the one, but apparently there's multiple out there. Jen, I'll throw it down to you.
I just wanted to say I laughed out loud when I read this story because the subhead says, what started as 10 internet friends is now an 8,000 strong Discord channel. And then the second sentence of the story says, what started as a pie in the sky dream last Thursday to form a DAO. Last Thursday, okay? It hasn't even been a week. And these people have banded together and raised $4 million and are going to buy, I think, the only privately held copy of the Constitution, which is amazing. I love the internet. And I ended up on a blog post this morning on the ConstitutionDAO webpage. And there's a quote from it. It said, it's a bridge between Web3 and America. We, the people, are going to buy the Constitution. And I just think that's great. But I think, Zach, I saw your hand and Naomi's. So
Zach,
it's they have a week to spin this up, and they sort of mention Andrew Thurman did a really great job of talking to some of the people involved in this thing, and they mentioned we only have 7 days, right? This auction occurs at Sotheby's on this Thursday, I believe. So that time pressure, that compressed time window has been to their advantage, and people are like hopping on board and like trying to get involved. And it's interesting to see them sort of spin up all this work of community building taking place in a matter of days. So going to be interesting to see if they get it. It's going to be interesting to see what they do with it if they get it. They're talking about maybe like, they need to find archival facilities to store it. They're talking about maybe taking it on tour. There's a lot of nods to, one person in the story is quoted as saying, I think this energy must be similar to what they were feeling in the Constitutional Congress way back when. So interesting to see a bunch of, Ethereum and history nerds pile on to this project. But I'll toss it over to Naomi. Looks like we're getting a quick update. $5.4 million. That's about 1,200 ETH has been raised so far. We'll see if they can get over the finish line by Thursday. Naomi, what are your thoughts?
And what I immediately thought of was the barriers to entry that things like this would usually have. Generally, you have ultra wealthy people who are able to bid on these like rare artifacts and amazing art pieces, and they, have the resources to take ownership of that. And it's really out of the reach of most ordinary people. And what DAOs have done, and what this decentralization of companies, decentralization of trust has enabled, is it's enabled average people to potentially participate in these things, to have like a percentage of something, to have fractional ownership of these, momentous historic artifacts. And so that's really exciting. Like, I really loved that when I read this story, that you could have all these people participating and they can all throw in a chunk of money and they perhaps get a token that represents partial ownership, and then they can vote to say like what happens with this. As Zach said, it could go on tour, it could do a bunch of different things. And I just think that's the coolest thing, that blockchain has just done such an amazing job at democratizing so much of our lives, and the potential of that is really exciting to me. But I'll hand it off to you, Will.
I'm thinking about the Wu-Tang copy or version of an album. That was only one of them that Pleaser DAO purchased a few weeks ago. What ended up happening with that, who's controlling it? So that makes me think of what's going to happen with the Constitution here. Who's going to be holding it? Zach, do you know by chance?
I don't know. I just know it's a DAO, and it was the copy that was seized from Martin Shkreli from the U.S. government. So it's in control of that DAO. So I think people saw that. People saw the excitement around that, and they said, "Hey, why don't we just go for this Constitution, this old piece of parchment? We can do it." And I think there's going to be other projects like this that follow as DAOs gain momentum. But there's a lot of questions to be worked out, right? A lot of legal questions. How do you deal with these entities? Where is this? How do we view this entity in the eyes of the law? And how do we view the people participating in it? Right? Are they part owners of this weird collective that we don't quite know yet? Wyoming is a state that's tried to get some law on the books around DAOs, but still some of these questions remain open-ended. Naomi, I saw your hand up.
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify. So it says on their website that ConstitutionDAO is seeking an esteemed partner to publicly display the Constitution. The eventual home must have the expertise to properly house, store, maintain the artifact. And additionally, the community has expressed strong preferences for institutions that are free to the public and willing to cover the costs associated with housing the document. So I presume that they're going to, by some voting mechanism, determine as a DAO what's going to happen with this. And that's really what their preference is right now. But I saw your hand go up, Will, so I'll throw to you.
My hand didn't go up, but I will say that I will gladly take the Constitution free of charge here, and I will take care of it for everybody. So if you want to send it my way, that is cool. But I think we got a tease coming up next. So
Will, lift up your hands. Are you wearing archival gloves? You have white gloves on. Can we trust? Let's see them. Let's see your hands, man.
Oh,
we can't trust
I'll get some Mickey Mouse gloves.
Will doesn't have gloves.
And
he has a dog that tears everything up. We cannot trust Will with the Constitution.
No.
It'll be next to the staircase, free of charge, and it'll come to my house. It's cool.
Dubious. All right, well, stick with us. We're going to take a break. We're going to get Will's room ready for archival quality. Stick with us. We're going to talk about some Bitcoin futures ETFs when we get back. I think the third one launched today. Yeah, we're going to talk about that from Van Eck when we get back on the other side of this short break. It's The Hash. Hi there.
And welcome back to the Hash. So we're going to move over to public markets and talk about the third Bitcoin ETF to launch. Van Eck has launched its ETF this week, which was first approved in October. It had some delays, but now it is live on Chicago's CBOE exchange under the ticker XBTF. So we've seen a few of these ETFs launch. They're always like futures contracts because that's what the SEC wants. And there's been a lot of criticism across the board for that. But it hasn't stopped a lot of these firms from issuing these futures contracts because they can still make money. This contract is notable because it has a lower fee than the other ETFs that are public right now, which means that we're starting to see a little competition heat up in the market. 3 brings a little bit more to the table than 2, and definitely just 1. When the first ETF launched, the BITO, that had $1 billion in volume on the first day, which is pretty notable. That was the largest ETF launch ever. I think it had $1 billion over 2 days, rather. So there's lots of demand for a product like this, but there's a lot of criticism also. It's still a futures exchange product and not a spot market product. Naomi, I'm going to throw this down to you. Obviously, it's good to see more competition in the market and to see more products kind of come in line, but it's still pretty disappointing that we have not seen a spot product launch yet.
Yeah, I mean, it's not surprising to me. I don't expect one anytime soon because Gary Gensler has made it very clear that, first of all, he doesn't like crypto. Second of all, that he, like, if anything, is going to be vaguely comfortable with a futures ETF and is not really considering a spot one. But maybe his tune will be changed. I'm wondering whether this has kind of turned into a race to the bottom in terms of fees, because, like, if you compare these products, and especially if they're all futures products, what differentiates each of them? I mean, we're going to be looking at liquidity. We're going to be looking at how they're settled. In this case, they're all kind of settled in a similar way. So it's like, it seems like the only thing really differentiating them may be fees at this stage. And I presume ultimately, as liquidity grows, the prices are going to be very similar. So I mean, are we just going to, is the next futures ETF going to come out and they'll be like, we've got an even lower fee, and then it'll just keep coming out? Like, it's kind of an iterative process now where it's not much is changing with each iteration. So it's interesting to watch. As you said, I'm glad there's more competition in the market. That's always great. But I also agree with you that it would be more interesting to start to see other products out there as well. Hopefully, as Gensler watches this and it's like, oh, this isn't a systemic risk and it's kind of interesting, maybe he will open up. I'm not going to hold my breath though, but Zach, I'll throw it to you.
Yeah, I mean, more of these things, right? These are not new overseas. Like, there's a lot in Canada. Jen knows Canada. Shout out to Canada. A lot in Canada, a lot in Europe. A lot of exotic ones. So I think we're slowly getting there. But yeah, people are keen on having some exposure to Bitcoin, even if they're not fully comfortable with getting Bitcoin itself. So, whether that's a MicroStrategy stock or all the Bitcoin mining firm stocks or a Bitcoin futures ETF, I think, the public markets are very keen on riding the upside of Bitcoin, even if they're not so sure about that newfangled Bitcoin thing itself. So, I don't know. What's there to say about Bitcoin futures ETF at this point? Now that, like, the race is over and now that there's one in the market, it's not fun anymore, So I guess we'll talk about the spot ETF and see which one sort of wins that race. And we can do the horse race coverage of the Bitcoin spot ETF, because there's a bunch of spot ETF proposals out there. But like Naomi said, I'm not holding my breath on whether or not those are going to be passed anytime soon. But Naomi, I saw your hand up.
Yeah, I just wanted to kind of circle back to what we were talking about with the ConstitutionDAO. We're talking about this fast-moving world where you get like thousands of people and millions of dollars put together in this decentralized fashion, and you have this time crunch and people are just mobilized and energized and they're innovating and they're getting moving and they're figuring out these new legal concepts and codifying them, and it's really exciting to watch. And then you have on the other side of things this large behemoth, this slow-moving bureaucratic lump. It's the largest economy in the world. They're becoming more and more slow moving. I mean, it makes me really look at the future of the United States and wonder how much longer they can maintain their position as this largest, most prosperous country. Largest economy in the world. I won't say most prosperous country, but definitely largest economy in the world, because it seems that they move so slowly with these things. They're so averse to innovation. We already mentioned Canada and other countries. You've got so many exciting products going up there that are innovating speculating with all this stuff. And the United States is not having a bar of it. So I don't know how much longer they can keep holding that title and how much longer they're going to stay strong. Because if the future is this decentralized world, which I think we're all kind of betting on, especially just seeing a boom in innovation, we're not riding that innovation right now. So we're missing out on a giant wave. But I'm going to throw this back to you, Will.
Yeah, the solution is obvious. We should become a DAO, just as these United DAOs. It makes a lot more sense.
So great.
Just fix all the doomsday predictions. It'd be
on-chain
fantastic.
voting.
No, on-chain voting for everybody. Just to go back to Zach's point, like the ETF story might be getting a little boring, but it really is the gift that keeps on giving, because crypto people love nothing more than beating up on regulators, and we can just keep doing that every time there's a new ETF launch. Be like,
that's true.
Come on, Gary, get your stuff together. Cue Naomi, cue show, and we're perfect.
Yeah.
You know, that's how it goes. That's
cue rant.
Remember Jake
Jen,
Clayton?
let's
Remember
hear
Jake
about
Clayton, guys?
Bitcoin's price dying on us this week.
I'm not talking about Bitcoin's price dying on us this week. I'm talking, maybe it's related.
Maybe,
yeah, we could. It could be related. It could be related.
We took a haircut.
So it really did. So Twitter CFO Ned Siegel says buying crypto assets doesn't make sense right now and cited the volatility of crypto assets as one of the reasons. He said the company prefers to hold less volatile assets such as securities. So that really does tie into the price tanking this week. But I don't know how to feel about this story because Jack Dorsey is such a proponent of crypto, and Square holds crypto on their balance sheet. So, Will, I'm gonna knock this down to you. What do you make of this comment?
So I saw one tweet that has informed my entire opinion, as it typically goes, right? And it said, Jack is obviously in control of both Twitter and Square. Square has Bitcoin on its books, but Twitter does not. So what is going on there? Like, what's up with the cognitive dissonance between those two things? And that's probably far too simplistic. Like, it makes Square as a bank. Twitter is not a bank. And Twitter probably doesn't need to have that sort of correlation with the cryptocurrency markets. It needs to have like its own separate books. I think we read into these things way too much. And I also wonder if like the storyline has moved on. I think, Zach, you brought this up like maybe a month or two ago. Like, this leg of the bull market, this recovery into the 60K territory, it has not been built on the Teslas of the world and the mass mutuals of the world buying Bitcoin. It hasn't been built on that at all. It's all been built on retail. And so I don't know if people would care if Twitter is purchasing it for their books, because that was really January's news and we've kind of moved on from it. Amy, I'll throw it to you though.
Yeah, it's interesting because, I mean, Jen, you brought up Jack Dorsey, and he's very careful to very much separate his Twitter life and his Square life. If he's at a conference representing like Bitcoin stuff, he will not mention Twitter. You're not allowed to mention Twitter. You will only mention Square. Like, it's a very segmented situation he has. And clearly, I mean, he's the person who's putting that momentum behind Square and all of the crypto stuff. And Twitter obviously is a different board and a different CFO, and they're going to have their own politics in-house there. Also, I mean, it's not necessarily, I mean, I to be honest, I agree. I agree with them. It's not in every company's best interest to suddenly become a proxy stock for Bitcoin or to open up their portfolio to the risks associated with Bitcoin. Obviously, I love risk. I think that Bitcoin is a really great bet, but obviously different companies have to assess their own portfolio and how they want to safeguard their wealth and make decisions that are suitable to them. And Twitter has said, listen, it's too volatile. This is not right for us. And I don't think that that's the wrong decision at all. I wonder whether that is going to put a dampener on some of their other crypto momentum. So, you know, the Lightning integration, all of that stuff. We, in the middle of a bull run, you're just like, yeah, let's add all of these things. And now we're seeing a little bit of a downturn in market. We're seeing the CFO saying, well, we're not going to take the plunge here. But, you know, it seems that as CFO, maybe he's just making smart decisions in terms of their actual holdings, and the innovation side will continue to flourish. We'll have to watch and see what happens there. But Jen, I'll throw it back to you.
Yeah, I completely agree with you, Naomi. I mean, it makes sense. It's just a little deflating to hear. There's always such positive crypto news coming from Twitter. I believe they hired a crypto team. They're working on this decentralized social play. Jack Dorsey teamed up with Jay-Z for the Bitcoin fund. So it's a little deflating, but it makes total sense. One of the reasons in the article that the CFO pointed to was the lack of clarity around accounting rules for holding crypto on a balance sheet. And I wonder if we will get more clarity on that in the future, or if Zach has some.
Sure, I know accounting rules. I'm definitely an accountant. I was just going to say that it's funny because Square published like a white paper for like how to hold Bitcoin as a treasury asset. So they could just go knock on the other door of their neighboring office and say, "Hey, can you send me that white paper that you guys put out about how corporations can hold an account for Bitcoin?" So there is some information out there, but hey, it doesn't make sense for everyone, and that's totally fine. Maybe he's waiting for the dip. Maybe he's just a savvy Bitcoin investor, and he's like, "This is overbought. I need this to go lower before we get Twitter involved here." So who knows? Interesting to see if like any corporate treasuries like ape into Bitcoin anytime soon, because you're right, we haven't seen this in a while. But also it is what it is. So yeah, back to you, Jen. What do you got?
Yeah, I don't really have anything else on this story. So, I mean, we can go back to the ConstitutionDAO.
Let's go back to the ConstitutionDAO
service.
Let's go back to the ConstitutionDAO for one more minute.
Bitcoin.
Well, I was just going to make a comment from the chat. So we actually have a prediction here about what the first spot ETF is going to be. So I want to put it on the record so that we can, where is it? So that we can see if this actually goes through. All right. So Dan Crowell in the YouTube comments says Grayscale will win the spot ETF in July 2022. If you have another prediction, add them to the comments there. We'll be checking that out. Dan Crowell.
Wait, was that July? Did you say July? July 2022? Was that the date?
Yeah, July 2022. That's the prediction.
Look at all these comments in the chat. Naomi, you really are the spokesperson for our fans on YouTube. When you're not here, we just ignore them. We're so sorry, everyone on YouTube.
There are lots of people in there who are like, I'm tuning into this Bitcoin show to tell you guys how much Bitcoin isn't a thing and how you're all really dumb. And I'm always like, okay, maybe, just listen and watch. And also your spelling is incorrect. It kind of bothers me. But, otherwise the YouTube chat is always pretty fun. You guys should get on that. Like, we have some regulars who are tuning in every show, and it's wonderful to see them each time. So yeah, awesome having you here, guys. Thank you for watching.
We love the chat. Desk drops. This is a fake desk drop. Anybody who remembers the desk? Is there any desk piranhas in the chat? Remember that? That was so sweet.
Have we got any?
Let's see.
Old school joke. Goes back months.
Raise your hand if it's desk piranhas. Okay, we're gonna wrap it here. We're gonna shut it down, and we're gonna have to get Jen back to do. Jenna. Anyway, the mama piranha.
Who's the desk whale?
That's happening. Good time. So yeah, we're gonna shut it down here. We'll be back tomorrow. I'm Zach. That's Will. Jen, Naomi. Hey, by the way, 3 p.m. Eastern, all about Bitcoin. We're going to be talking with Van Eck about their Bitcoin futures ETF and plans for other products in the works. So check that out, 3 p.m. Eastern, all about Bitcoin, CoinDesk TV, it rules. All right, we're going to get back to work, and we wish you a happy Tuesday. All right, boom.
Hi, guys.
Did it.